From here starts the speaking test. This is the speaking test of the International English Language Testing System taking place in Ross IELTS Academy. The candidate's name is Hector Jimenez Aguirre, candidate's number 0143277. The examiner is Mehnu Shafi, examiner number 443533. Good morning, my name is Mehnu Shafi. Would you please tell me your full name?
I am Hector Jimenez Aguirre.
And what can I call you?
Hector.
Hector, great. We can now get us started with the first part of the exam. In the first part, I will ask you some personal questions.
Okay.
First, let's talk about your hometown. Where is your hometown?
Here, Guadalajara, Mexico.
What do you like about it?
Oh, so many things. The city, the people, the way the people is with me. Well, I believe in somewhere, some cities of Mexico. I believe in Veracruz, Estado de Mexico, in Puebla.
Thank you. And how important is your hometown to you?
Very important. It's where I'm living. That's all for me.
Now let's talk about the clothes. What is your favorite item of clothing?
Clothing, well, pants and
Why?
shirt. What?
Why?
Why? Because I don't like my legs. I need to use that pants. Because I don't like to show my.
Are there any traditional clothes in your country?
Country, yeah. Something like mariachi, right? I don't know how to say it.
And where do you usually purchase your clothes?
What?
Where do you usually purchase your clothes?
I never said that word. What?
I can repeat my question.
Yeah.
Where do you usually purchase your clothes?
Wow, clothes. Well, first of all, this is September. Mexican parties.
Now let's move on to talk about photos. Who do you usually take photos of?
Please repeat.
Yeah, I can repeat the question. Who do you usually take photos of? How do you keep your photos?
On my phone, my PC.
And have you ever framed any of your photos?
Привет! Я сдала IELTS на 7,5 баллов и уехала учиться в Италию. Хочешь также подготовиться и с первого раза сдать IELTS на высокий балл? Даже если никогда его до этого не сдавал, приходи на наш бесплатный вебинар по подготовке к IELTS. На бесплатном вебинаре мы покажем и расскажем тебе все секреты от бывшего экзаменатора из Британии, который он бережно хранил все эти годы. Ты узнаешь, из чего состоит экзамен, какие перспективы он дает, можно ли подготовиться самому, тонкости и детали экзамена, а также пошаговую технику подготовки к нему. Также мы подарим тебе книгу «8 правил для 8 баллов». Нажми кнопку ниже и узнай подробнее.
Yeah, that's all.
Great. Thank you very much. Now we can move on to the second part of the exam. Now, in the second part, I will give you a cue card with a topic, and you will have to talk about this topic for 2 minutes. But before you do so, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make some notes to help you if you wish. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Great. Now, I'm giving you the paper, a pen, and a cue card. You should talk about a book that you have never read but you would like to read. So, here you go. Now you will have 1 minute to think about your topic, and I will let you know once your 1 minute is over. So you may start thinking now. Okay, now you're going to start talking about this topic. You should talk for 2 minutes, and do not worry if I stop you. So you can start talking now.
Well, there's a book that I've never read, but I got like to read. It's called Cien años de soledad from Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I've never read it, but really wanna read because it's a classic in Latin America. It's a book I think that's so complete because he, Gabriel, talk about the people to know how to say costumbres. What this would like to experiment that tree because I like to read some books, something like very personal. But this is so romantic, so special. So he's so kind when talk about the people in the book. Something that I like to read. Well, why I don't read yet? Well, there's many reasons, but the first is that well, I don't buy it. But maybe that would be my first step. Well,
Thank you very much. Great. So can I have the paper and pen and the cue card back? Thank you. There you go. Okay. We can now move on to the third part of the exam. So Hector, in the second part you talked about a book that you have never read but you would like to read. Now in this part I want to ask you some questions related to this topic. Do people read more nowadays? Do people read more nowadays?
Yeah, I think that many people read that.
How come?
Well, there's a book that many people talk about. I think that's a good book, and that people look for it.
Mm-hmm. And how about you? Do you like to read before you go to bed?
Yeah, but not no, I don't read always
Why not?
because maybe I'm tired. I need to rest. So I try, but I prefer to sleep.
Mm-hmm. And in your opinion, how will ebooks affect paper books in the future?
Maybe in the future, but not now. some people like me we prefer to touch the smell. There's things that we prefer about the ebooks, and it's better touch and don't receive effect in the.
How about the advantages of ebooks? Are there any advantages to this kind of book?
Okay, what the.
Do you think there are any advantages to ebooks, to reading ebooks?
If I like to read it, ebook, yeah, well, now in sometimes I read ebook, but like I say that I prefer to touch the smell.
Now let's move on to the topic of traditional literature in your country. What is one example of traditional literature in your country?
Um, so what? I remember something. That was some name. Well, some writer. I don't remember the name of some writer.
Do you like reading traditional literature?
No, I read one book traditional from writer Mexican. The name was Hicoatzi, la serpiente emplumada. Veracruzana writer. That was a good book.
Why do you think it was a great book, or you talk about it as an example?
Because she described the smells, the textures, the things could have a good deal about it. She told.
Great. Thank you very much. This is the end of the speaking test.
Videos in which you will learn each and every tip you will need in specific details for both general and academic modules.
Next question type is double question, or
Attached to each video, you will have the PDF files for each question type, including the paragraph structure, the expressions, and the techniques you can apply, which have all been taught in the videos. To make sure that you learn everything properly, in each video we will write an essay, a letter, or a report by using the tips that you have learned. Moreover, something to help you in this section is the different question samples we have put for you to write your own writing about. This isn't everything. We strongly recommend you to use our writing correction services as well, so that our examiner can give you a written and video feedback and make sure you're ready for the real test. Join us to become our next successful candidate.
Okay, very well. Now let's talk about your performance. But before I get it started, I would like you to tell me, how do you think your performance was? How was the test?
The test was good, but my desempeño, no sé, I don't know how to say that word in English. So regular or bad.
Oh.
I need to practice it more.
Good. Okay. So first, I will give you a like general idea of your performance in different criteria, and I can talk about your overall band score afterwards. Hector, just like what you said, maybe the questions, maybe the topics are kind of familiar to you. You had heard of them before, like talk about a book that you have never read or talk about your hometown. So these are some very general topics that you should talk about in different parts of IELTS speaking. But the thing is that you don't need to always be truthful or try to just give the correct or right answer to the question based on your experience. You should just keep talking and give a relevant answer to the questions. That's the most important thing that I can tell you. So you should always make sure to give explanations. Like you give me the direct answer, then you should explain about your answer to cover your idea. So now to start with your fluency and coherence, I can say that as the first criteria that I should talk about, the problem that you had was because you were trying to remember the words in English, and most of the like your mind was kind of translating stuff from your mother tongue to English, and because of that, you had some pauses, very long pauses before you start your answer or while you were giving me the answer, like you thought for a long time and then you started the answer. Or you were just giving the answer, then your mind went blank, you didn't know what to say, and then you paused for a long time, then you kept talking. So this is the first problem you have, and to reduce your pauses, because most of your pauses were language related, it means that you couldn't remember the vocabulary or grammar. So if you have this many language related pauses, then instead maybe you can use some fillers and boosters. By fillers and boosters, I mean you can use some phrases to buy yourself some time and then start talking. Like I asked you, do you like your hometown? Maybe you don't really. You say yes, but you don't know how to start your answer. So you can say, well, actually, yes, to tell you about my hometown and if I like it, I can say that. Or, wow, that was a very interesting question. I should say, that's a difficult question. Let me think about it. So you can use these fillers and boosters to start your answer or in the middle of your answer to reduce your pauses. This is the first thing, and to talk about the next one. The other problem you had was that you had limited ability to link some simple sentences. Like you were able to make some very simple sentences, but to link them together or maybe to make some complex structures, you were unable to do that. And by complex structure, I mean some subordinate clause and some maybe relative clauses, conditional sentences. I didn't really hear any of these in your speaking. So, because it was really hard for you to convey the basic meaning, and you were thinking a lot, using some Spanish words when you were talking to me, and you didn't use a range of vocabulary or grammatical structures, maybe that's why you had difficulties giving me the answer to the questions. That's about your fluency and coherence, so try to reduce your pauses, give longer answers to the questions, and if you can, use more connectives because I could rarely hear and so but because. These are very simple ones that you have to use. But if you want to get a better score, like 5 and above in fluency and coherence, you have to use some alternatives. For example, besides, in addition, however, although. On one hand, 5 and above in fluency and coherence, you have to use some alternatives. For example, besides, in addition, however, although, on one hand, on the other hand, if you want to get a better score. So that's all about your fluency and coherence. Now to talk about your lexical resource, your vocabulary. In your vocabulary, I can say that the problem was that, first of all, it was hard for you to understand the meaning of some words in the questions. Like you didn't understand the question, and it's fine. If you don't understand, you can ask the examiner to repeat the question. But if you don't understand the words, then that's a problem. And you will lose marks in lexical resource. So if you don't understand a word, try to guess the meaning because the examiner is not allowed to give you the definition of the word. Like, yeah, this is the meaning of the word, so give me the answer. Or this is what I mean. We can just ask you the question. We cannot change the pace of the speech or change the question, right? So if you don't understand the meaning of the word, just guess the meaning and keep talking. That's the first thing. And the second one is that whether the topic was familiar or unfamiliar, it was hard for you to give the answer to that question. So I recommend you to paraphrase better. Like use more synonyms. When you want to give the answer, don't repeat the examiner's question, right? For example, I say, do you like your hometown? You say, I do love my hometown. I do love where I live. Or I'm really interested in living in this neighborhood, for example. So paraphrase the examiner's question and paraphrase your own sentences, because if you don't, then you will have self-repetition. You repeat the same thing, the same vocabulary. So try to just keep talking. If you don't understand the meaning of the words, you shouldn't ask about the definition. That's the first thing. The second one, try to paraphrase the question in your sentences, your words. Use more fillers and boosters, as I told you in the previous criteria. And if you want to get a better score, then you have to give a range to the vocabulary that you're using. So maybe using some collocations, idiomatic vocabulary if you're looking for a higher score. Let's talk about your grammatical range and accuracy, the next criteria. In your grammar, once again, as I mentioned in fluency and coherence, the thing is that you were only able to make some simple sentences. And even in those simple sentences, you had problems. Like, for example, there is many reasons, there are many reasons, or mostly you forgot the third person s, or singular and plural, or the tenses you were using were so limited, or mostly you had problems with the correct use of the tenses. So that's the problem you had. Maybe you can just give a range to the structures that you were using and like you want to use in the future, and be careful with your mistakes, because it's very important in IELTS speaking to be error-free than to use some structures or vocabulary that you are not sure about. So that's about your grammar. And finally, your pronunciation. In your pronunciation, the first thing, Hector, because you were pausing a lot, you had a very slow pace of speech. You were speaking very slowly and pausing a lot. And when you do that, it means that you're not paying attention to the pronunciation features. Like, I couldn't hear a very good English intonation, how you raise and lower your voice based on the sentence, based on the question that you are using. And you had some lapses, some mispronunciations. For example, because you pronounce it because, or texture was like texture. Talk, you said instead of talk. And yeah, the hesitations. So maybe you can just, if you work a bit on your English, like the structures of vocabulary, then you will be able. If you are fluent, you will have a better pace of speech, a faster pace of speech, and less pauses. Then you can work on your pronunciation features. And to work on your intonation, your rhythm, your sentence stress, word stress, maybe you can listen to native speakers or to some podcasts and repeat after them the way they do. It can help you with the pronunciation features. Now, do you have any questions, any doubts?
No, no. I don't have